Welcome to the Global Citizen Life podcast. Today on the show, we have Ingo. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, thanks for the invite. I'm happy to be here.
So, you are originally from Germany, but now you live in Mexico. So, what made you choose Mexico as your destination?
Yeah, we're living in Mexico since 3 years. What made us choose Mexico as a destination? It's a good question. So, we decided to. So, actually, I grew up in Germany, but the last 3 years before we moved to Mexico, like from 2019 to 22, me and my family we lived in Israel for 3 years. I had a job there, and then we actually decided to move from there during the pandemic, and we wanted to look for something different. So I was not so happy. I had a corporate job. I was not so happy with that anymore. And yes, so we looked for alternative places where we can maybe also find like let's say a new life. So we were looking for a new life, not necessarily for traveling a lot, but since we were not sure, we wanted to choose something that gives us a few options. So we had a few options in mind. At this time, we thought also about Georgia, so not the US state Georgia, but in Georgia in Eastern Europe, right? So then we decided against it, and I think from our today's perspective, it was a good decision because of now we have all the conflicts there, right, with Ukraine and Russia, and so it's not that stable right now. And then we thought about South American countries, first of all, yeah, because we thought if you speak German and English, so it's the language is usually not a big problem to learn. And what made us then we had looked for Panama, Costa Rica, what else? I think a few South American countries that we looked into. In the end, we decided for Mexico because we thought, we're also not the typical beach people, right? So we didn't want to have one of these Caribbean countries where you just have sit at the beach all day and drinking caipirinha. So we didn't want that. We wanted something also where we have a variety in landscapes and where we can choose from and also climates. And we thought Mexico had a few advantages. First of all, it's a very big country, right? And you get basically you have everything here, right? You have like the high plains where the Mexico City is
Like
in the
kind of the
center,
mountainish
mountain
range.
range. It's not really, it's actually plain there more or less. There's some mountains, but it's pretty flat.
Higher elevation.
Like on 2,500 meter Mexico City and all the Puebla and all these bigger cities. And the climate is more dry there. And then you have the Pacific coast, you have the Caribbean coast, you have the Gulf of Mexico. So we thought, okay, we have a lot of options there. The other topic was also like the immigration process. So for us, it was quite easy to get a residency here. There are other countries in South America. So for us, it was important also to have something to stay for a longer time. Since we have a family, I have 2 kids, and we came here with 2 dogs. So we didn't want to do this typical visa runs, right? Like every 6 months to go to another country to renew the visa. So, and Mexico allowed us to get a pretty straightforward immigration process to get a residency. That was one thing, and the other thing was, it was still during the pandemic, so right, so Mexico was one of the countries that was pretty open, and there were little restrictions. So it's basically
Nice. Great. And so, how old were your children when you moved from Israel to Mexico?
Yeah, that was also a good point and was also part of our consideration. And I think they had an age, I think it was the last time that we had this chance because they were like 10 and 12 or 11, I think, or 9 and 11. Yeah, something like that. So we thought, okay, if we want to make this move, so we have to do it before they're getting teenagers, right? And that's why we also, for now, we decided to stay in Mexico at least until now. My oldest son is 14 and the younger is 11. So we decided to stay here now at least till they're like eventually going one day their own ways. And because, they're going to school here now, they have their friends. And so we don't want to, don't want to move with them anymore. That was their age. We thought, okay, and it was still a good age to, sure, they felt like a little sad that they had to leave their friends and everything, but in the end, they didn't have big problems to adjust here. Also, they picked up the Spanish very quickly, and they did a really cool job. And I think they learned a lot here by like traveling here in in the different villages, cities, meeting local people, doing the shopping and all the like running all the errands that you and doing the stuff that you have to do every day. So I think it was a good age to travel with.
No, it is good. I initially, my first move was to Costa Rica, and my daughter was 13, and she hated it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it was tough, but all kids are different though. I have a very good friend of mine. Her daughter's best friend, about 2 years ago, I think it was now, was moving to Abu Dhabi. And I think she was around 14, 15, probably 14 at the time. And so my friend's daughter, her friend was excited about moving to Abu Dhabi. She's like, it's going to be great. It's a new adventure. It's so exciting. And my friend's daughter was said to her parents, she's like, don't you ever move. Like, I am not moving anywhere. So it was
Yeah.
very interesting that they're best friends and they had a completely different opinion on moving abroad, although my friend has no plan to do that. But
Mm.
it's just interesting that, you know, all kids are different and
Right.
some are up for the adventure. And who knows the types of conversations and talks and things that
Mhm.
they had within the family
Right.
about the move. So
Right.
that always matters. But I think you're right that
Mm.
moving before they're teenagers is better than once they become teenagers.
Yeah. I mean, it really depends. I think, yeah. I mean, I mean, it's just when they're teenagers, it's harder to separate, right? Because they will have their own friends, they have their own
Hmm.
circle of life or their own communities and social connections. Yeah, but everybody's different, and I think it can also change, right? I mean, sometimes they're very hesitant or reluctant to leave, but once they're there, I mean, eventually they find new friends, and it depends. They just need to find a few good friends and maybe a good school, and can completely change.
That's true. And so how was the schooling there? Did they go to a private school or because if I understand correctly, there's like the public school system and then there's kind of like a semi-private and then private schools.
Yeah, so there. I mean, when we arrived here, we went to Mexico City. We landed in Mexico City and we bought a car there. And we first traveled, right? For 9 months, we traveled on the road. So we did homeschooling at this time, more or
Mhm.
less. I mean, they learned also Spanish, and we did some homeschooling, but not like not a whole lot. And then yeah, after 9 months or something like that, where we were like every night or almost every night in different Airbnbs, and we had our SUV. We were. I mean, it was a beautiful time, right? But it's also intense. And then we arrived here to this city. I mean, we had some friends here already. We knew some people here, and we arrived here. And we met another couple. Actually, she's American and he's German, and they also have daughters. And one of their daughters is going to school here. It's like it's a private school, but it's not really an official school. So it's like in the forest, so it's a natural school. So they learn there a lot about nature and like survival, and also a little bit of math, but a lot of arts. So it was just yeah, something different, right, from a normal
Mhm.
school. And so we arrived here, and after a few days, our kids, they wanted to try it for one day to go there and see how it goes. And then after the first day, when they went to the school, they came back and they told us, we will stay here. So
Wow.
they really liked it, and yeah, then we said, okay. I mean, for us, it was also like traveling was intense, so okay, let's settle here for a while and see how it goes. And since then we stay here. It's, I mean, well, now, yeah, closing our second year. After
Mhm.
1 year, they changed the school. Now they're going to another. It's also a private school. It's a small school, but yeah, there are many different small schools, private schools. Yeah.
Oh, good, good. And so did you do a lot of research about Mexico before you went, or because it looked like you said you were looking at a few places. I was just thinking, what kind of surprised you about Mexico, or things that maybe you wished you would have known before you got there?
Yeah, I don't think we did so much research. I mean, yeah, we joined, this Telegram groups and some Facebook groups to talk a little bit with some people that are already there. Um, but it actually happened everything very quickly. I think we made the decision that we want to go somewhere else, that we want to leave and we want to go travel. It meant also like that we had to quit our jobs and sell all our belongings, right? So I think we made the decision in late October 21 or November 21, and in February, in 2nd of February 22, we had the flight. We took the flight. And then that means in these 3 months, we did everything. We researched the country, we sold our house, we quit our jobs, we sold all our belongings, right? We organized everything. Yeah, so we did a little research, but in the end, we were quite open-minded to everything. I mean, we have a very good friend. She's a friend of my wife. They studied together in Germany. She is Mexican, so she helped us a lot here. Also was buying the car and everything. But yeah, so we were pretty open to that, and yeah, pretty
I,
open-minded.
I also find too that the first time you move abroad is always the hardest
Mm,
because you just never know what to expect or to do because you've done it before. And then I find that the second time is always a little bit easier. And it doesn't mean that anything's really different. I think it's just more because once you do it once, then we kind of
mm.
know how things in a way are going to flow, or it's going to be tough and it's the first 6 months that are this and that, and the things to do make it easier each time that we do it.
Right. And I made the experience. I mean, I was traveling all my life and I made trips. And actually, my first bigger trip was 2005 when I went, I was a student back then. And I decided to go to India for 6 to 8 months and travel to India and Nepal. And as then I made a lot of plans and I checked everything and I want to do everything correct and, do all the sites and had my plan. And then when I arrived there, I mean, it all fell apart because you're just going with the flow, right? And you say, maybe this direction is better than that. And so the plan went quickly. And I also met my wife then in India. So after 2, 3 months, and we traveled together. So yeah, I mean, and since then, actually, I think it's better to just see what life brings to you and accept it, and rather than having. I mean, sure, we have some plans and everything, but it's good to have plans. I'm not saying don't have any plans, but yeah, just be flexible.
Yeah, that's true because you can make a plan and you can talk to 100 people on Facebook or Telegram or whatever, and they'll give you their opinions, their experiences, their
Mm.
points of view, but it doesn't mean that that's going to be your experience.
Right.
Like whether it's good, it's bad, it's indifferent,
Mm.
it's kind of in the middle. You're going with your family, your experience is going to be different than somebody else who has gone maybe with their family as well. And it's true. Once you get somewhere, you get a feeling. You get the
Mm.
vibe of the city or the town or whatever. There's some different places or things you didn't think about or didn't hear about until you're there. And so it is nice to have a bit of a plan, but I always say to people, like, don't your plan is just a guideline.
Mm.
You just have it as a
Right. Right.
guideline because like life happens
Right.
and it'll
Exactly.
take you in a different direction. You may end up going back to that plan or guideline, but you never know. And if you're too set in it, you might be missing out on some great opportunities.
You're right. Exactly. I mean,
So,
when
and
we came here, and we also, I mean, yeah, also the places are very different from far away, right? I mean, when we came here, we met a group or a few people. They had something like a community near Playa del Carmen, so in the Caribbean coast. And we thought, okay, that's can be a cool place to go there. There are a few people, nice people, like-minded people. Maybe we buy there some land and live there. But then we arrived there. First of all, we didn't like the region a lot. And it's also just too hot for us. I mean, we don't like to live in it's. I mean, yeah, if you're not at the beach, you cannot go outside during the day. So it's because it's just too hot, right? So we moved to the
that's
mountains. But we
yeah,
didn't
that
know
is
that before.
really
I mean, if you see pictures of the Caribbean beaches, it looks, of course, nice. Right?
yeah, the pictures are beautiful. I mean, pictures of the snow and covered mountains are beautiful, but I hate being cold. So
Oh, I
it's
like the snow, for example. I wouldn't mind being in the mountains.
Well, I mean, you're from Germany, so you're used to
Right,
the cold and snow, and
right.
I'm from Canada, so the cold and snow. But It's just, yeah, I'm not a fan of the cold and snow. So I don't mind going to visit it and be in
Mm,
the snow and cold around Christmas time, but then just for maybe a couple weeks at max, and then I'm out.
okay,
And so that definitely that the weather and activities that we like to do, those are very important factors to
right.
take into consideration when you're going to move abroad. If
Mm,
like you guys don't really like the heat, you're not like the beach. I'm sure probably nice to go visit, but it's not your main focus
no,
of where you want to live.
no,
And so being anywhere along the coast, you're not going to be happy. So it is important for people to realize the weather that they like, the outdoor activities that they like to do, and to pick a place to live because I always say every place is great on vacation. Whether you're there for 1, 2, 3 weeks,
yeah,
it's always great
that's
because
correct.
you know it's vacation and you know that you're going to leave. But living there is also very different.
That's true.
And so, how would you compare the cost of living? I don't know if you've been back to Germany much, but compared to Israel or Germany, if you've been back, the cost of living there in Mexico, where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, it's in general, it's cheaper, much cheaper. I mean, it depends where you go, right? There are touristic places like all the Riviera Maya, like Cancun, Playa del Carmen. They have, meanwhile, I think American prices because there are a lot
Hmm.
of Americans coming and retiring there and buying land and property there and all the stuff. And then you have the bigger cities that are a bit more expensive, like Mexico City and Puebla, Monterrey, maybe. But where we live, it's still okay. I mean, in housing is very affordable. We actually just bought a land here and building a house here, which is also okay. I mean, it is much cheaper than in Germany or in the US or in Israel. Um, yeah, and also food. I mean, we're living in a region, we're living a little bit in the mountains. We're like 1 hour away from the beach, but we're on like 1,200 meters, which is like uh, I don't know, 3,000, 4,000 feet or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, and it's okay. I mean, it's still warm. It's like spring all the year, but it also has rain. Like in the afternoon, usually the clouds are coming. It's also called cloud forest. So the clouds bringing the rain in the afternoon. So it's a very rich climate. So they're growing a lot of things here. So all locally grown food is of course much cheaper here because you get everything you have bananas here, mangoes, coconuts, apples. If you go higher, you can grow apples, potatoes. So there's all the variety of vegetables and food is available here.
Well, that's nice, and it always tastes much better when it's fresh as
Oh,
well.
it's amazing. Yeah. And since I we have bananas in our garden and buying from our neighbors like huge stacks of bananas for like $1 or something like that, right? And they're so tasty. I cannot eat a German banana anymore. It's you will yeah, it's not working.
And so, how's the process of work there for building a house? Like, how does it work? Like with getting permits, and is it difficult to find a builder, or what have you found for that process so far?
Yeah, I mean, you can buy land here also as a foreigner, as long they have a restriction that it cannot be within 50 kilometers away from the coast. So you need to be away more than 50 kilometers from the coast. Um,
Okay.
if you're closer, so I mean, that's how all the Canadians and US people and Europeans doing it in the Riviera Maya. It's still possible, so you need to do it via a bank trust. So it's still working. I mean, technically, it's then not your land, but it's
Mm.
some legal process. But where we live, it's very easy to buy land here. You go to a notary, you take a lawyer, and you need a permission from the like the foreigners, like ministry or something like that. I don't know how it's called. Um, Relaciones Exteriores. So
Okay.
you need a permit, but usually it's no problem to build here. And then buying a house is also, I mean, you look for an architect, you decide what you want, and you're building a house. I mean, it's recommended that you check the process, what they're doing, that that like quality standards can be a little different, or I mean, anyway, also in other countries,
Mm.
right, it's recommended to check the process and see that it's going in the right direction. But yeah, it's not very difficult to build here.
Okay. Well, that's good. And So you have to be 50 kilometers away from the beach. And what about if it's farmland, is that still acceptable or not? Because I know some countries you cannot you can have land as long as it's not agriculture or farmland. Do you know if that applies
No,
there?
no, there's no difference between that. I mean, there are certain, in Mexico, it's different. There's another legal structure. It's called ejido. Like there's private land that you own
Hmm.
privately, and there's so-called ejidos. They're like communities that are not governmental, but they own like the land. And in this, it's more difficult to buy the land, but this is not everywhere. And also here, I mean, we can go out here. I mean, we decided to go closer to the city because we have kids and they need to go to school and everything. But if I drive here like half an hour, 1 hour, I'm completely in the forest or in the jungle, and you can buy the land. You can build a house there. I mean, you need to make sure that you get then your whatever electricity, water supply from somewhere, but there's no restriction in buying that or building there.
Okay. And are there a lot of places that don't have electricity or water? Is that something that you need to be careful of prior to buying the land?
Yeah, I mean, this you will find out very quickly. I mean, as soon as you're to a village, usually you can be connected. I mean, sometimes you need to make the connection. Um, and you need to consider the cost for this. Usually it will just put a line
Hmm.
there. The more far away you go from, I mean, we're living here still very central, right? And most of the population of Mexico lives somewhere around the center, right? Maybe not in big cities, but it's very central. I mean, all the north of Mexico is much more empty. So there, of course, you will find places. I mean, if you have like whatever 20 miles or 40 miles to the next village. So, I mean, it's your problem to get the electricity. But I mean, today there are solutions. People are doing it, right? You can put your solar cells, your photovoltaic, also water. Usually, maybe you can find a river or like where we are, it's raining a lot. So we are collecting rainwater. We're also connected to the municipal water, but we're also collecting rainwater. So um, yeah, depends how much off grid you want to go, right? There's something for everybody.
Right. Absolutely. There definitely are so many options there. And so that's going to be home now for indefinitely, or at least till the kids finish school.
Yeah, I wouldn't say indefinitely because I'm not making plans for such a long time. I don't know what's happened in 5 years from now. But yeah, now let's see the kids can finish their school and then let's see. I mean, if we like it, we'll stay here, and if not, I mean that was actually like that's actually one of the mindset shifts that helped us to make the decision more easy to go here, right? To just say, okay, we'll go there, and if we see it doesn't work, we go back or we go somewhere else. But yeah, I think that's one of the key points. If you're making a decision, don't make the decision by thinking, okay, I have to stick with that now till the end of my life, right? So,
Yeah, that becomes a little bit overwhelming if it's like
right,
forever.
yes. But who knows?
And I mean, and you took some time to drive around too, as you said, you spent about 9 months traveling
Right.
around through the country. So you really got to know a lot of different areas and regions before
Mhm.
settling down there, which
Right.
is important because just because one area, town or city might not be your thing, it doesn't mean that there aren't others that are, north, south, east, or west from wherever you're at, because every country has different feels and vibes and things that go on in different parts of the country.
Mm. That's true.
So, and so now what are you guys doing for work? Are you employed with a corporation in Mexico? I'm assuming you're self-employed now
Yeah,
after
I
leaving
built my
your
own
jobs in
business.
Israel.
Yeah. So before I was working as a product management director in the semiconductor industry. Now I built my own business. I'm mainly working on coaching with private clients. I do transformational coaching. So this was also something I learned a lot about myself, and I invested a lot in my own personal development, right? And I'm helping now other people, especially with a similar process, right? To break free. So I've even many people of my friends and colleagues that I saw they're trapped somehow in in their life and not really getting happy and not really getting fulfilled. So I'm helping such professionals and people to find their own purpose and to find their own life, which doesn't necessarily mean they have to move to the other end of the world, but every one of us has their own solution.
That's right.
Yeah, my wife, we're also having a small job here at the university, but this more like, so we're teaching, my wife and I, at the university, but it's more for, making some local connections and getting a local network here. Yeah.
Well, being part of the community is very important.
Right.
When we move abroad, we're leaving a community, whether it's the first move and it's friends and family and people, even if it's, the second move, you've still made friends when you were in Israel and your kids did as well. And so it is really important to be part of a community and make those friendships and relationships, whether it's through meeting neighbors, through festivities that go on, through the church, through the school, through whatever it may be, things that people like to do, joining hiking groups and things like that, to just, make friends, be part of the community and doing things that you enjoy doing.
Right. And it's, maybe if I can just point this out, I think that was also something very important for us. I mean, we didn't want to go into, there are a lot of people, foreigners coming to Mexico or to other countries, and they're living then in this resorts in Playa del Carmen, in Cancun, where they're living among other foreigners, right? That's not something we wanted. So we're living really in rural, I mean, it's also a city here, but it's more rural Mexico, traditional Mexico. We live among Mexicans. We don't have a wall around our house. We live open. We're engaged in the local community. They're not in the city we live. There are not many expats or foreigners. There are a few. So, but it's really, and we speak only Spanish here, right? So it's really, we're really living in a Mexican city and not like in a whatever European or American satellite out of out of the Western world.
Right. And that's true. I mean, people need to think about that, because I've talked to many people that have moved abroad and they've said, I moved to this country because I don't want to be around Americans or
Right.
Canadians
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
British. If like that's why part of the reason why they left is people, like not only like the
Yes.
various reasons, but
Yes.
they said, why would I want to move to Mexico or another country just to be around all the same types and kind of people that I wanted to move away from? And then there's the others who want that. They're like,
Mhm.
I left for other reasons, not necessarily the people. And so they want to have those people around. So again, it's figuring out what you
Right.
want, what you don't want, what you
Yes.
like and don't, because there's so many opportunities and
Yeah.
options in the world that you just have to figure out what you want
Exactly. And
or
I mean,
don't want.
all options are valid, right? It's not that one is better than the other, but yeah, as you're saying, I mean, you just need to understand what you want, and then make the decisions accordingly.
Right. And very important, I think, as well, as like you said, we're never stuck. So if you go to Mexico and you don't like it, you could try a different city or town in Mexico, because they're all going to be very different. And if not, you could try Costa Rica or Panama or Spain, or I mean, there's just so many options out there. But I think to really kind of narrow it down on the lifestyle that you want, the weather you want, and then also too, if you're still working, where are your clients? Because it's really tough if your clients are in North America and you're considering moving to Malaysia. Because
Yes.
unless you like to be up all night and
Yeah.
sleep during the day, great, that would work for you. But if not, then sometimes we really have to also think about those time zones
Sure.
and where we're going and what we're doing.
That's correct.
And so, do you get back to Germany often to visit family and friends there?
No, I went only once last year. I want to go again, but now we said, okay, we're waiting till our house is finished building. And then, yeah, I think I will go in winter, because I like, as I mentioned, I like the snow, so I want to go skiing. They don't have skiing in Mexico. That's one of the disadvantages. So, but
Well, no
yeah, I
place is
think we'll go in
perfect.
winter. Yes. exactly. And yeah, for a few weeks to visit my family. My mother was here twice already. My father was here once. So
Okay.
we had visitors here. They also like it here. They said also, I mean, yeah, they were also surprised because, you know, if you go to like, if you hear the news or something in Europe and or probably in the US, it's the same, or in Canada. So the Mexico is a very dangerous country, right? And you cannot go out of the house. And so my father came here, and after 2 weeks, he told me, yeah, they say in Germany, they all the time say it's so dangerous here, but I don't see anything dangerous
Not.
here, right?
I mean, you know, obviously, yes, there's going to be dangerous areas and
Oh
dangerous
yeah,
regions,
absolutely.
of
Yeah, sure.
course, right?
Right. Yeah.
But it's not all of Mexico. Like
No.
those dangerous places are probably a very, very small portion of the entire country. But it's the same. So many people who've never been and they only watch the news and mainstream media. Ooh, Mexico is so dangerous
Mm.
and scary. But it's really not. Like almost every country in the world will have areas and places that you really shouldn't go to or don't
Right.
want to hang out
Absolutely.
in.
Yes.
It's everywhere. It's just more publicized or kind of in your face. Because I say everybody gets propaganda. Like Canada gets
Correct.
Canadian propaganda, the US gets US. Obviously, people only think like Mexico and China and those places
Mm.
get propaganda, but it's not true because so many people who haven't traveled and all they hear about with Mexico is negative things and it's dangerous and scary. But then once they go, they realize that it's beautiful and very few places within Mexico are really dangerous.
Yeah. And as you're saying, yeah, I mean, there are dangerous places, but you're not going there, right? Yeah, also, if I go to in Frankfurt, I'm also not going everywhere in the middle of the night, for example, right? So it's you need some
Right.
common sense, and you need to, yeah, like know
That's
where to
right.
go and where not,
Absolutely.
and that's it.
Yeah, no, it's right. It's I've been to Mexico a few times and it's always been good and I've never felt unsafe. But like you said, it's awareness and know where you're at and know where you're going.
Mm.
And many people, I think, oh, what was the last even I think it was just from the US, there's almost 3 million people from the US citizens that are currently living in Mexico full time.
Mm. Right.
So I
Yeah,
mean
many
it
people get retired here, right?
yeah. Yeah. And we have from Canada a lot, we have what we call snowbirds. So when winter comes
Right. Yes.
and they're retired, then they
Mm.
leave, enjoy the summertime there, and then come back, which I mean, it makes sense. When I mean, I don't like the cold, so to me it makes sense. And especially at retirement and things like that, when you get older, you have to deal with shoveling the snow and slippery sidewalks and things like that. Why not go down to Mexico and spend the Canadian winters there and enjoy the weather and meet people and then you still go back in the summertime. Canada's beautiful in the summertime and they enjoy that and visit with their family and friends and it's also another way that people don't have to go full time and be gone all the time. People can move abroad kind of part time or kind of 4 to 6 months out of the year back and forth between countries and that works for some as well.
Mm. Right.
And so Ingo, if people wanted to get in touch with you, maybe talk with you, get some coaching, or talk with you more about Mexico, what would be some of the best places for them to reach you?
Yeah, so most active I'm right now on YouTube. Actually, my brand is The Small Reset, so you can find me on YouTube under at The Small Reset, on Twitter, and I also have a website if you want to learn more about my coaching program and more. Yeah, there are also some interviews and interesting blogs. It's also thesmallreset.org.
Perfect. And we will have those links in the show notes just to make it easy for everybody to connect. So I just want to say thank you very much for your time and talking with us about your plans in Mexico and how life is in Mexico for you.
Thank you, Sally. It was a pleasure.